All right, let's call this meeting to order. Entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Do we have a first or a second? Second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Same sign. All right. Before we move on to the next part of the agenda, just to kind of give you an update, this was this is my last meeting that I'll be attending. I'll be replacing myself with Gabe Winkle, and many of you may know his parents. They are both principal here, and his mother's principal here in Winchester, and his dad's in Union City. Gabe is part of an attorney practice in Union City with Ryan Prinky, and I like saying this. I was asking them to change their name of their firm to Winky and Prinky, but they didn't do it. So the first thing on the agenda here is the report of the nominating committee. We had we had Glenn, Cheryl, Kobe Wells, that was initially thrown in for the president's position, and then there was an email that came in that nominated, or actually put in Dave Linkenstopper's name in as well. So during the meeting, I let everybody know that I'll be coming off, so that also affected the executive board as well, because of that, the past presidents that's on the executive board. So that'll be part of our vote tonight as well. The size of the executive committee was reduced from 7 members to 5, which was our past size, and the executive committee will consist of basically the current officers and the immediate past president. So that what was suggested was Sean was already on the executive board, and he would serve as the outgoing president. Excuse me, the immediate past president replaced me. Let's see what else. So we'll have in front of you, and do we want to take a ballot vote for this?
That is up to the wishes of the board. Are you comfortable with accepting the recommendations of the nominating committee?
Which I have not made yet.
Yes. Or would you, on a voice vote, or would you rather have a ballot vote, a written ballot?
Anyone have a strong
Somebody
feeling?
going to make a recommendation on the nominating? Are you making that?
What I'm asking, the first question is the request before do we want to vote by ballot or do we want to vote by voice? And then the people that were in so the current.
And we'll do one position at a time.
Yes.
Because I don't think it's fair to do a whole ballot at once. I mean, it should be position by position as we.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's not possible then for the report of the nominating committee to be recommended? Someone move on that we vote to recommend, vote to accept the recommendation. Somebody second that. We have a voice vote. If it passes, then we have our election. If it doesn't, we go to ballot.
Oh, I'm fine with that.
Say that again.
Yeah.
Your recommendation.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, go ahead and do the recommendation.
the slate of officers is for president is Dave Linkenstopper, vice president Brody Tarter, secretary Kevin Slick, treasurer Cheryl Prescott, and the
I move we accept the recommendation of the nominating committee.
Second.
all those in favor of accepting the nominating committee's recommendation, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passed.
So then you, so well, do you, okay.
What's that?
Yeah, well, I didn't know if you wanted to finish the nomination.
Accept the recommendation.
Okay, then,
I don't know whether it'd be an election.
Wouldn't need to be a vote.
Is everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, let-
Good, finish nominating committee report, because you were chairman of the nominating committee.
like I said, the size of the executive committee would be reduced from 7 to 5. The replacement for me with outgoing board member, it was in the immediate past present, was myself, which would now be Sean Byram. And for the incentive committee.
Wait a minute, let's just finish the executive board, okay?
vote on them one at a time.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah,
Are we,
I move we accept the nominating committee's recommendation for Sean Byram to fulfill the past president role. Second.
all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Okay. Now do your two that's gonna replace.
Is that, was your motion to reduce it from 7 to 5 to?
Well, the thing was, we really never made a motion to increase it. It was at the one meeting, Mike,
Oh,
where
okay.
we just said, hey, let's put a couple more people on, so there was never really a bylaw or a,
Okay, I didn't know that.
so. Get that, remove that,
So we're done with that?
ready for the two committee nominations.
So for the, I would also serve on the incentive committee, and we also need so we need a representative replacement for the incentive committee, and also Rob Likens, who has also resigned to serve on the, also served on the incentive committee. So the nominating committee recommends to the board the following replacements. To serve in my position on the incentive committee is Gabe Winkle, and to serve for Rob Likens' position on the incentive committee is Kobe Wells. Any discussion? Motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. End of report.
Have we elected Gabe to the board?
He's
I
appointed.
can appoint him based off of my
Okay.
position.
Okay.
Mayor works designee.
Oh, yeah.
Which one? Is it something I said? Yeah. More often.
Might be just your presence.
That does that, I've clearly submitted that.
Okay, thanks everyone for voting me in as president. We'll go ahead and get started with the board minutes. Kevin?
I trust everybody received a copy of the board minutes and spent time to review them. Are there any corrections? Hearing none, the president would entertain a motion to accept as presented.
Anybody?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, I got a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, we'll get on to the financials. Cheryl?
I've reviewed all the financials and I have no questions. Does anybody else have any questions on these?
I would like to bring up one issue for the board's consideration. You may recall at the last meeting, I presented an invoice from Humboldt for accounting work for a prospect that we're working with for $5,600. And at that time, I said it was moved and it was approved to take that $5,600 out of our general operating fund. The account I was gonna take that out of was contingencies that had $10,000 in it at the beginning of the year. But we also approved taking $5,000 out of our general fund for the plaza, the Bicentennial Plaza. So, and that has to come out of that contingency account. What I would like your approval is to simply, instead of taking that out of our general account, take it out of our capital account. And probably we should have a motion and a second, because that was a motion in last month's meeting.
So moved.
Second.
On discussion on that, did we ever, what is the $5,600? What's it specifically for?
It is for there is a company that is looking at, we're one of 2 finalists for a project in the county that the company needed information that involved a financial nature involving tax increment financing. And so based on the location of the property, the assessed value and so on, they wanted to get financial information from a reliable source. And again, this is Umball out of Indianapolis that helped them make financial projections on basically tip financing.
Thank you.
So let's see, we had a motion and a second.
Got a motion and a second on the floor to approve that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. Entertain a motion for the financials. Is that for both of them, REDC and tourism? Entertain a motion.
Before, just for clarification, on the end of the last meeting, that's when you were discussing that. I don't think we voted. I thought you just informed us
On which fund it was coming out of?
on accepting that. So, just for technical, I mean, I don't think we ever voted that meeting. I think you let us know it was coming.
The minutes don't reflect that.
Okay.
Okay.
I don't remember if we did or not, but the minutes.
It was the last thing almost we were
Well,
adjourned.
then, thank you. I'm letting you know we're going to take that out of our capital.
Okay, back to the financials then. It's been moved second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Hey Dave, who first and second that? On the financials.
He made it, I second, how's that? Might have to back the camera up first.
Can't remember 2 seconds. Red zone.
Okay, so Scotty, would you like to do the tourism report?
I want to just hit some highlights of tourism. We are very busy right now with bicentennial and some other things going on. You've got a packet in front of you, and in that packet is information on what we are doing. Mayor's Brunch, April 29th. It'll be downstairs. It is RSVP, no cost, but it is the Mayor's Brunch, which will be in coordination with the racetrack. Please try to come. It's a Saturday, and I promise it'll be a good day. Winchester Speedway they have their schedule up and running, and they are working in coordination with the city of Winchester, and we'll be doing some bicentennial events at the racetrack this year, and also the bicentennial on May 19th. The picture is at 3 o'clock. It would be wonderful if everybody would be able to be in the picture for the community picture. K.I.S.S TV is going to be involved in some of our events going on. Indiana Foodways Alliance Board meeting is coming back to Randolph County next month, and those are the Indianapolis people from the Tourism Bureau that will be coming and visiting and having their board meeting again next month. Also in your packet is the East Central Indiana magazine, and we were able, in coordination with Winchester City, do a full-page ad on our bicentennial. So, also, there's a groundbreaking ceremony in the works for the Bicentennial Plaza. Anybody have any thoughts or questions or anything? These are just the highlights.
The community portrait, what was the date of that?
May 19th. And in your packet, there's a little business card, Brody. There's a little business card, and it's got the dates on it that you can stick in your wallet.
And is that technically a Randolph County?
It is a Randolph
portrait?
County portrait, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
How are we advertising that to get people there?
Facebook, webpage, radio, newspaper.
Okay,
I'll make sure that information's up too.
great.
Is that
I
more
think
in the
reaching
schools?
out to the schools would be
Yes,
important.
yes. The band will be here.
Rochester's really well aware.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else, Scotty?
Your calendar is in your packet there too. Your race schedule's in there and the invitation to the mayor's brunch. If you have a place of business and would post that at your place of business, that would be greatly appreciated. The flyer.
Okay.
Scotty, one of the things too is, a week or so ago, we had our hotel board meeting, and some of them in there have to work closely with you, and they had nothing but really great things to say.
Thank
So,
you very much for
it
sharing
was-
that. Thank
it-
you.
They were really thrilled,
Thank you.
said you worked hard for them, so I think that was excellent.
They're kind of our shining star for Randolph County, so.
But they weren't they, Cheryl?
Very,
I mean, they brought it up, I mean, just out of the blue, they said, boy, you know, boom, boom, so they were extremely happy.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
the digital sign is, we've had.
Oh,
lots
it's
and
amazing.
lots
I
of-
get calls at 10:30 at night, people asking about something that come up on the sign. They apparently don't see it to go to the Rome Randolph or go to the Facebook, which is fine, which is
If
fine.
we have a wreck there from people stopping to see what's coming on next, you're in trouble.
It's working out very well.
You're doing a great job updating.
Just one comment for Scotty. Scotty, you have to be an awfully proud grandmother.
I've got 6 of the most wonderful grandchildren, but
Well,
one I've missed.
one in particular played a full half of a basketball game with a torn ACL. It wouldn't come out. You have to be awfully proud.
She's unique anyway.
Yes.
She's unique.
All right, thanks, Scotty. Okay, let's go to the action items. First one's the incentive committee recommendation. Greg?
Yes, so I included in the board packet, I'm sure everyone has seen it. Please, if you have any questions about the incentive committee recommendation, this is a procedure that I would like to establish that more or less formally that the board have the opportunity to review the recommendation of the incentive committee on forgivable loans before we take those to the commissioner for their consideration. Again, we're a recommending body on this, meaning the incentive committee, but we wanted to make sure the full board had an opportunity for input. If there were any questions or maybe you feel differently about the what you read in the minutes. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Just the one here, as I do really appreciate this report, and it's good to look at this and see the breakout of how many people have put skin in the game on projects like this. It makes it a lot, it certainly makes it easier to digest when you know that everybody that's going to be impacted by it has skin in the game on it. So it's a good report.
Was the request for 90 and it was bumped to 100, or is that a typo in there?
No, that's correct. And the reason that was is because their bidding, this projection was very tight.
Okay.
We didn't want it to be,
So the 90 was very conservative.
yes.
Yeah, any other questions or comments?
I had a question. So if I'm reading this correctly, the church is the one that actually will own the building and then the YMCA will lease?
Yes.
So is the church moving their facility there, or what's their involvement in the project?
It was their dream. They approached us to manage the project. We were not interested in owning, did
Sure.
not feel we were the level as an organization to own it at this time with everything else we had going on. But we said, of course, we would lend our expertise to manage it, and so that was the conversation, about a year kind of talking about how that would work. And so the church is actually going to own the building, and then the Y will, in theory, lease the facility and be in total charge of operating it. And there'll be a blended committee comprised of our board members and their board members. Right now, our board members' votes trump theirs, and then once it's built, then they will have majority vote, rightfully so, because it'll be their building. But since we are the expertise in how to design and build a licensed center, we have controlling vote to do things, but we do not own any of the capital. We'll own the furniture, but other than that, we're just gonna, we're advising them on the drawings and whatnot. We'll be submitting the application because it'll be our child care program, but they will own all the property.
So will the church be doing anything else with the building, like a youth center or anything like that?
There's a concept out there in the beginning was that they were going to raise the roof, no pun intended, you know, you hear that, but to make a gymnasium, but I think they've kind of gone away from that. I think the expense, et cetera, and just kind of making the other side, because basically the Y will take half of the facility, and then the other half will be kind of a youth center concept with steps and whatnot. But the original plan was the Wesley Church has a great mission and work in Union City that they run the youth sports over there. And so they were going to kind of have that be their gymnasium. But I think now they're thinking maybe build a new gym. I haven't been in all those meetings. I just kind of hear, kind of see where the vision. The main priority right now is to get the childcare up and going because that's what the funding's coming in for, and that needs to be their focus. And then after that, but the church has got a great vision and great energy, and we were just proud and blessed and honored to be asked to be a part of it.
Yeah, it says here the project budget's $800,000. To date, $651 has been raised. Our $100,000 will take that to $751, which is still short of the project. Are we going to do this like we did the Bicentennial Plaza one? It's contingent on them funding the balance of the project?
Well, the project, well, maybe not in that same way, but the project won't and can't go forward unless they have the full project budget. They legally would not be able to go to bid. And so there's some question marks besides corporate donations, and I think they're working on contacting corporations within the Union City market for the child care services.
Okay.
And is this the same type of child care facility the Y has now, licensed child care?
Yes, it will be licensed. That was one of our requests. We could do registered ministry, but we asked them to do licensed.
And how long is your lease?
Huh?
How long is your lease?
10 years renewable. We went around in different ways. 10 years and then renewable for another 10 years.
And I believe they're trying to go out for bids in May of this year.
They have to go out in bids.
Right. And then completion by May of next year.
Yes, then they have to go be open. Greg's smiling. We lived Okra. It's half, not May. There's no ifs, ands, and buts with Okra. I wish them well.
Who's the applicant to Oakland?
Huh?
Who's the
Union City.
Union City.
Yeah, an entity, what Mike's referring to, is the entity cannot apply for an Okra. It has to be a municipality. So ours, for our organization was the county. Randolph County was who secured our grant for the WISE Child Care Center based in Winchester.
Any other questions on this?
I don't know if we went over, but the only, what we put on it was Okra's requirements to become forgivable loans. We didn't add anything to that other than what Okra itself demands of it. So, it wasn't like you had to have so many children in there by so long. We decided to say, if the whole thing satisfies Okra, then it satisfies us.
Yeah, and basically there are requirements for Okra. It's the same as what we have for our current facility. We have one more left at the Y. We are monitored. We have to give out surveys. It's an income survey. We have to prove that 55% of our children are low income that we're serving. And that's for a 5-year period. And so the same will be in the Union City community, and they will come in and do a survey. They will also come in and check and make sure we're using the facility. That any time the church cannot decide in that kind of oversight audit period that they say, hey, we want to do something else grand with this facility, guess what? Then that means your money goes away. So you have to abide by that once the Y is over that in about a year's time period, we are free to do whatever. But if you default and do something you're not supposed to do, you don't meet low income guidelines, or you do something outside the grant guidelines with that facility and that property, in theory, the city or the municipality who wrote the grant would have to pay that money back. You would be against your agreement. I'm sure there's a lawyer term for that, Mike, but I don't know what that is.
SOL.
Yeah, I didn't do that, but that sounds about right. Yeah.
So one final comment on the daycare, which is very neat in Randolph County, and it's also, I think it's going to be a boost for us in the future. What do we need to do to get this kind of daycare on the west side of the county?
Money.
We need somebody to step up.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, and that's the thing. I mean, I was saying that's the brilliance of Union City. I mean, this partnership is
Right.
the epitome or poster child of what it should look like here in Randolph County, right? It's the Y with expertise because of our experience, but we don't have the capital. And it's a church who has a passion and a vacant building to unite and motivate the community, and all of us coming together, and it's all these different funders coming together. If we want Randolph County to be where Randolph County can be, let's use this as the model of what we can do and replicate to other entities and other things. So it's extremely exciting, and I'm still like giddy. It's surreal that this is happening because I know how hard we fought our child care center was to get what we have now. And hard fought, I'm not saying in a negative way, I'm saying years of raising money and figuring out
So
how
the
we're
biggest
gonna
hurdle, the biggest hurdle is the facility.
a facility and capital. We know how to run them. I
And
mean,
you can sustain them, if the facility's there, you can sustain them with your work.
yeah, the only caveat to that is the unknown and the thing that makes us nervous. There's some angst behind staffing. The quality staffing, Lisa knows, she's nodding her head. We've had several conversations around our board table. Mark probably remembers. It's low pay, and you want quality. Brody, you want quality people in there, right, to watch your little guy. Which was so cute, his little hat the other day. Welcome by my office. It's staffing. I mean, and I think you hear that in other industries. But the find quality staffing that's reliable for what we pay is hard. And so we are a little nervous about how that'll work out for us, but that's where you have faith that it's the right thing to do, and so we'll figure it out. We'll just figure it out. Sorry if that's too
No, I'm just racking my
much jump
brain.
off a cliff and hope that something's gonna catch you, right?
He asked about the western side, and I already know where the facility is.
There we go, phase one, step one.
Fit.
Sounds like lights on.
Well, when we built our church, we built it to be a daycare, but no one stepped up within the congregation that felt the calling to run it. And you don't want to start something, run it for a couple of years and shut it down, because that's not good.
And you just hit it. Truly with the child care, it has to be a calling, because child care is mission based.
Yes.
It is not funny. Any board
No.
member that sat on the Y board knows that it is not a moneymaker. It will bang your head against the wall trying to figure out how to do it, but for some reason we have been blessed to figure it out. And again, I mean, Okra used this as a model that we were able to figure out child. They've had child cares who folded. But for some reason, our community and our staff and board have been able to figure it out. So divine intervention, I think.
That's good enough, because we already have a facility.
Good. I'm
What church you go to?
smiling because the
Farmland
guy
Church.
doing our audio is like feeling the shake in the feet. It's a good thing you weren't here when they did Dunkirk. The room shook. Lots of bombs and blasts and so on.
First time for me, Greg, so next time I'll be better equipped and
Okay. At the next commissioners meeting, I will take the recommendation of our incentive committee to recommend this loan unless there are any other concerns or comments. Hearing none, then I'll take that forward.
Thanks, Greg.
Yep, you want me to just keep going, or?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so in conjunction with this, we've never formally, as board policy, said, well, you know, when we have an application for a loan versus a forgivable loan from our USDA or EDA loan funds, you know, there are committees that oversee both of those loan funds, USDA and EDA, and our board is directly responsible for those dollars. And so I just want to make, if you're okay, make it sort of a formal procedure that on all applications for USDA and EDA funds, that those recommendations of the revolving loan fund board come to this board for your final approval, since you ultimately are responsible for those dollars, but we as a board recommend to the commissioners on forgivable loans. Any discussion or comments on that?
I think it's excellent, needed done a long time ago.
Just one while we're doing that. Who's Diamond K Pizza?
Who is it? We approved that loan in December. That is a USDA loan.
Yeah, but who is it? Where are they?
They're in Lynn.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
I wasn't absolutely sure.
I
Yeah.
think they're set to open here within the next month. Yeah.
They had some.
Is that the one that tried like a year earlier?
No.
Okay, thank you.
So any other questions on that? Okay, we'll move right along. Todd, back to help 211.
I don't know how many people know about Connect to Help 211. It's an organization, it's a call-in center. Our area's call center is in Indianapolis. We've had people from Randolph County call in for the last 3 years, 854 people. They work on donations, and there's not been any donations from Randolph County. And
Todd, can you explain what
and on the
211
back,
does?
on the back, so it'll list, on these cards I'm passing out, it'll list all the different services. It's strictly a call-in, and this other one has to do with domestic violence.
Thank you.
And they track everything. They know the number of calls. They know what the expense is for a call. Like I said, 854 people in the last 3 years, and 487 people went through their website. But in 2017, that one call center took 248,000 calls, and 47,000 people gave up because they weren't staffed to take all the calls. So, and like back in 2015, that 215 residents that called from this, they fulfilled 588 needs with 635 referrals. So, what triggered this was one of the last meetings we had last month. Only about half the people ever heard about 211 in Randolph County. I don't know how many on this board has heard about it. And I went to trustee to figure if they could help, and they can't donate. And if you don't have an exact bill for a township, they can't help. I've talked to the St. Vincent Community Foundation. It's not something they fund. I've talked to Lisa, and because it's strictly operational, that doesn't fall into there. So I've come here for one or two things. If this group could do something, maybe for like $2,000 or $2,500 for 1 year, to give me time to find some kind of a sustainable thing for Randolph County. Or if someone here collectively knows how we can find someone that would step, that's what they're looking for, is a champion for county is what their goal is. Because they only fund based on guaranteed donations. That's why the 47,000 people fell through the cracks. So, and Lisa Settle from Reed Hospital actually sat down in that call center for 3 hours and watched these people operate. They're compassionate and professional and help these people. They just don't pass out cash. They connect them to whatever service they need. So, but if anybody knows someone who to talk to, I'm running out of ideas who to talk to that can, where we can get a thing where they can contact and know that some kind of a donation. So
They are on United Way's allocation cycle. So that will, obviously is not guaranteed until we're done. They will be a part
On
of
yours
that.
here too?
Yes. So, 'cause we're all of Randolph County. So they were a funded partner when they were with Lifestream. Because they were with Lifestream up until 4 years ago. I believe they ran all of the 211. And then when they moved out of there, then we weren't getting the feedback from them that we did. But yeah, they'll be back on the
Well, we got
roster.
a full amount? For about-
No, we don't know how much,
Okay.
yeah, and
Yeah.
we don't know what will be guaranteed, but they are back on that roster.
Right now, because it went from 253 to 280 to 321, I just brought in another 4,600 cards to pass out throughout the county. We've got half of them sent out already, so this is going to keep on growing. And so far, it was 6270 over the last 3 years has been the cost. And the lady from 211's coming up in April. Is she still coming up? It just got moved to the 16th. She's going to talk to the Rotary, the Rotary. Again, that's going into a pool of requests, so there's no guarantee on that one. So we're just trying to help them out, and they're actually, I mean, helping lives in Randolph County.
So what you're looking for, Todd, is some donations. Who would that check be made to, or?
Probably connect to Help 211. And I really have trouble going after tax dollars for these kind of things, but I just look for a stopgap until we can find someone in the public that can.
Well, there's a lot of service organizations in this county, I think. I know I belong to the Lions Club, and we can bring it past them, and we've been,
If I was looking at everybody here's got a whole list of people that they deal with, I thought maybe there would be some ideas of where to go. Not necessarily this group, but.
Todd, is there a committee that goes around and talks to, well, like Dave, I belong to the Saratoga Lions Club and WCCPC here in Winchester. You know, we're always out helping others, and we go by communications is what we call it. And when somebody sends us information about they needing help, this and that, and as Lions Club from Saratoga, you know, we help. Same thing.
that's our motto, we serve, so.
And WCCPC does the same thing. When people come in and ask, you know, we try to help out.
Maybe what I need to do is get a
Committee together.
list of all organizations and
Start.
And Scotty's got Scotty's got that list of organizations that's in Randolph County.
okay.
to help you out.
I think that may be the best,
I think the first avenue.
First avenue.
approach.
otherwise we'll be overrun with good causes. And they're all good causes.
They're all excellent economically good causes.
Just not to interrupt, just an idea, Todd. I mean, we live in a visual medium now on social media. A small video piece that we could record to go viral to all your guys' social media, stuff like that, explaining what this is, probably would help as well. Instead of reading it, if there's video to, take me down to a call center, get some video of what they're doing, what the cause is about, with a little explanation of what you're just saying in a video standpoint, something short, could be shared everywhere to go on everybody's social media, and you never know. Be glad to do that for you.
Okay, thanks.
And live Facebook stream, the chamber uses that theory. Other organizations use the same thing. Just put it on Facebook Live that you can have somebody to present or read out, and it only takes just a couple minutes, and everybody that's on Facebook will hear it, or you have another second chance.
Okay. Thanks, Todd. Okay, Greg?
Yep.
Check your report.
Yep. I do want to apologize to someone in this room. You walk into the room and you got a room full of folks and you say, okay, let's get started. And I neglected to introduce Missy Williams, and I apologize.
That's okay.
We should have had, so if you don't mind, I would like to give Missy a few minutes. Missy,
I don't want to interrupt your meeting.
No, you're
part of it.
welcome to.
This is kind of like a classroom where the teacher next door is playing a movie, really loud. I get that sometimes. Hey, I've got some little cheat sheets here for you that I put together really quick. I'm not a copy person, I do everything digitally, so you're gonna have to, every couple of you, you're gonna have to share this just a little bit. And I'm gonna go quick, because I know you're like, kids, you wanna get out on spring break here a little bit too.
Every other person.
I appreciate Greg giving me the opportunity, because I did want to talk to you for just a minute. So when he text messaged me last night, I kind of jumped on coming in for just a few minutes. I've had all kinds of people who said, so what does the community, before I was offered the position, what's a community developer do? And I tell you, I had to go, I don't know, I gotta look this up. So obviously, being a research librarian, I looked up the definition to it and thought that doesn't tell me much of anything really. It's, you know, the first one, you're responsible for planning, organizing, implementing the projects, where did we go, what do we do? And so I thought to myself, I've got to get this to be my own and to be yours. What do you want, and what do the people, what do the communities really want? That's a big thing. And I found out community developers can be employed by cities like Decatur. I went up and talked to Melissa Norby there for about 2.5 hours. She was great to me. Went over to Henry County and I talked to the Henry County community developer who has lots of hats that he wears. Found out a lot there too, so I've been calling a little bit. But even I called an individual from Winchester who lived at K.I.S. Reservoir and said, we have a community developer that we pay for K.I.S. Reservoir. So it can be a variety of things. So I think what I wanted to let you know is, well, this is my view. A new definition in where we're going with things in communities and trying to get rural Indiana to thrive, because I've talked to some people in Rush County a little bit too. As community is in the community, not looking and sending things out, but actually being out there, being at the 4-H fair. And I see you have your Who's Your Opportunity sign, which is great, but I've never seen it anywhere. I'm sorry, but I've never seen it anywhere than right here in this boardroom, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me when we have seniors getting ready to graduate, yet they've never seen this. They've never gone down to look at any of it. I showed it to a class the other day, an English class that was in, and some of them were going to post their resume on there because they aren't going to go to college. They're going to stay and try to get a job in a field they enjoy. So I think that's one of them. That needs to be out. That needs to be at the 4-H fair. That needs to be at Heritage Days. That needs to be at the Mardi Gras. It needs to be out there and with some assistance to show people how to use it. I really believe that we have to really work as a group within all of our cities, all of our towns. And I do know a lot of people just because I'm old. And I told a kid today, I said, I didn't get this old by being stupid, so sit down and do what I'm telling you to do. Sometimes it's 6th graders right before break. It's not sometimes a good thing to have going on. I really want to include in this churches and schools. I'm going to tell you that schools are really important to me. They have been, obviously. I'm not saying you can't change a 35-year-old or 40-year-old, but I know you've seen a lot better chance of changing a 15, 16, 17-year-old and their thinking than you do older people, because we kind of get set in our ways. So it's important to me. Community organizations, manufacturing, don't forget your agribusiness, because those people have a lot of great ideas, our business leaders. I asked the interview committee, which some of you are on, if I could set up a youth council, Randolph County Youth Council, and they were very supportive of that. I hope that continues. I've heard from a lot of communities to set up a manufacturing council where we bring them in. We listen to what they're saying, and we tell them some of the concerns we hear from our people. Your jobs don't, I can go to Walmart and work, and I can make more than I can at your factory or what. So it's got to be a two-way street going back and forth there, and I think it can be. I had one of my cadets help me a little bit, so she did my growth looking. They taught that in a poetry unit this week. I really believe in active participation by citizens. I think we need to listen to them. I try to listen as a city council member. Brian and I talk a little bit, and Monty and I talk a little bit over there too, so they've really been a big help to me in trying to get this city council, when I first started, get my feet on the ground, know what we needed to do. Who's Your Opportunity? It's a great thing, but we've got to get people there, and we've got to show them how to get there. You can't just say, go to this website, because even though it looks pretty easy, you got to guide people to get there. We've got to get into our schools and show them how to do that. You know, what jobs are there? Where are they at? Some kids, I know we say everybody knows where Lickskillet is, but not every kid does. Not every young person does. You've been around for a while, you do. If you're older, or younger, you maybe not. When's the job? working first, second, third shift. I like job postings on there, but it doesn't really tell me what's open, because I have 2 kids. I can't work second or third. I have to have days because I don't have anybody to provide childcare because my kids are in school. How do I apply? I just send it on there, and or we need to tell people, do I need to call the person and say, hey, I put my resume on the job site and I'd appreciate, if I could get in to talk to you. We need to teach kids to do that a little bit. And our schools do a pretty good job. I think we need to do job fairs in our schools. The EDC did one, Anastasia did one at Randolph Central. And all the schools came in there, which sounds really great, and it went really well. But I think to go to each school individually and deal with smaller groups of people, have the kids fill out an application form, which they can take to the different booths, hear from somebody different that, I can't read this. I mean, my English teacher tells me that, but when an employer says, oh, the diary, I can't read this, and you spelled Winchester wrong. So some of that kind of matters. The other thing, we've had a lot of success around the county is we had military recruiters come in during our lunch. Our employers could come in during our lunchtime and talk to kids, and they could talk to them a little bit more one-on-one. And the kids who really are interested in those could go up and talk to those people. The Army's recruiting for jobs all the time. We've got to do the same thing there. Some really good things. I'm a technology person, obviously, maybe to a fault. But we've got some hubs in this county. You've got the Y, you've got the 4-H Fairgrounds, which I think we need to do a little bit more out there, because I think it can really be a great center for our county, not just during the fair, during the fair, but other times. That would be a great one. You've got libraries, you got public places in every location almost. Maybe little libraries, but there's still places where people go. You've got county festivals, you've got quality of place events. It can be things like Union City did their musical this weekend. Winchester did their musical this weekend. Again, we've got to get into those. That's where people are coming to. You got 1,000 people right there. You've got 500 people right there. So we can sell products at those things. Your website looks great. I mean, your website really looks good. I sent this to some other people in another area, and they were really impressed because as you look through here, the airport pops up. Immediately, that's people, businesses that are saying, do you have an airport in Randolph County? I can fly in there if I live in Bloomington. So you've had some really great things, but you've got to get your message out. You got to make sure, how do people go see a website anymore? They don't. You got to get them there. So it's got to be on your social media. You've got to have a link on there, so when they click on it, they get to your website to see what you've got going on there. And you've got to sell Randolph County, and you can sell it with social media. And I know it's scary. People say, I don't ever want to get into that. You don't know. You can control it. You can, I shouldn't say the word block. That's a bad word to say anymore, isn't it? But you don't have to allow comments on there. You can disseminate information. You can have them message you if you want them to. You allow those. But you don't have to allow them to blast on your Facebook page. I went to this restaurant, but you don't have. You can control all that. Everything is controllable. Some other things. I sent this to, her name is Brenda McLean, and she has a consulting company in Bloomington and just bought the Western Wayne newspaper in Cambridge City, Hagerstown. So I had her go through there and look, and she said, you've got companies in your communities that have been there for 100 years. I'm thinking of Frank Miller Lumber Company and others. Are we telling our story about who we are on there? I mean, K.I.S.S has been there for a long time. Ardell, they've been here. We need to sell those. Then you've got your website for who's your opportunity. It's really great, but we need to get the right people hitting this. How do they? Do we set up down in the community room sometime with 10 computers and tell people, if you'll come in, we're going to show you how to do it. We can get student volunteers. We can get National Honor Society kids who can spell and help them do that kind of stuff. They really need a lot of help. I think once they get out of school and they're 25, 30, where do they go? Where do they get a job? How do they get help knowing how to post something on there? And it's fairly easy on there. You write a little resume, that scares everybody, but it doesn't have to be that big. I proved that with my resume to you. I had very little on there. I try to keep it, pretty simple, because what I've done for years, it doesn't have anything to do with community development, just kind of being a school teacher. I hope you all agree that we can be a successful and vibrant community. We are already as a whole, the whole county. Somehow we got to get this we gotta get working together. I mean, it's, Brian and I may be bitter enemies in girls' basketball, when Union City plays Winchester. But somehow, at the end of the day, we're able to talk, and, you know, there's gotta be a cohesiveness there. And I think at least with this group doing that, going back to your individual communities. The other thing is, I've talked to a lot of older people lately over another issue, and they kind of feel like sometimes they're forgotten in all these communities. Are we helping any of our people? I had a lady who called me because their credit card got taken someplace. And I just know her, she's a personal friend, so I went and told her, this is what you need to do. She goes, well, nobody's ever told me that. Can't we help them? Can't we go to Summers Point? Can't we go to the nursing home in Union City, in Parker City, and let them know, don't give any money over the phone. It's not your grandson, it's not your, but they hear it, but they need to have a personal sit down in a small group and let them know, because that happens a lot. How to manage their money. So I appreciate Greg giving me the time. Any questions, any thoughts that you have? I'll give you my email once I get the one from here set up. School, I really don't want to take anything on that email. First of all, it won't exist here in about another 42 days. I just happen to know that. Not that I'm counting, but anyway. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let's give,
Oh, no.
welcome to the and I do think the keys here are that I think the selection committee saw. Obviously, you see the passion, but technology, she understands it. She understands what we're about. And she mentioned the name Melissa Norby at the beginning at Decatur. For some of you who've been here a long time, Melissa worked here, and she had Michelle's position. So Melissa rose through the ranks and now is Community Development Director of the City of Decatur. So didn't know if we, most people probably didn't know Melissa Norby. So, and I appreciate Missy's research capabilities being a librarian. We're going to be able to do the kind of research now that we have always needed to do. And then just thank you for joining, and can't wait to get you on board.
I've got to tell you this, and I know you're not going to go back to legislator unless he calls you back, but you wonder what your kids are doing the next, from now till the end of May. This is our testing schedule. You know why teachers are leaving? Just pass that around. That's just the high school. I mean, because you need to know what's happening out there in education. Amazing amount, and we've done testing all year long, so I'll be glad not to do testing if you don't do that here. So.
I have a very short then report. Randolph County is looking for 2 members to sit on the county's redevelopment commission board. They had a recent resignation. They had an existing opening. This is a board that meets quarterly at most, and I think most years maybe only meets semi-annually. Todd, you're on that board, I think. And so if anyone would like to volunteer, they're desperately looking for some folks. I'm going to cover one of the last agenda items, the Tartar Farm and Ranch trip. If any of you would like to go on that, make sure you let Michelle know. Maybe, let's say, by the end of this month, so we know what kind of vehicle we need to get, whether we should get a couple of us carpooling or get a van or whatever. It is a great trip. Brian and I went 2 years ago. They are very hospitable, and they love to bring Randolph County people down, because they told us then, and we mentioned it to you 2 years ago, their county commissioners and their county council members in Kentucky have never been to their plant. And they said, we can't get them here, but you guys came here, and we always want to keep inviting you. And so if you want to go on that trip and you're able, please let me know. It was recommended by a couple of board members that we have a program involving Michael Hicks from Ball State University. My question is this. He is such a valued speaker. I'm not sure it would do justice if we gave him 15 or 20 minutes as part of our board meeting. So my question is, I think we can get Michael Hicks here, surely, to talk about the future of Randolph County, the future of rural Indiana, the Midwest, and so on. Would you want it to be a board program, or should we try to set up a separate evening where we invite the public to come in as well? Any thoughts on that?
One of the things that involved with marketing is that right there, is to do more meetings like that, Greg. It's okay for us, we're leaders and stuff, but we also have future leaders out there. And for those people to come in and listen to what we can be, or what we're going to be, or our future and stuff, I recommend that we do this as a public evening meeting during the week, and invite the public, and Missy can bring some students out here, because they're the future. They're the seniors, the juniors, and because we started to shun away some of that, but as part of the marketing, that is one of the things that we need to connect is with the public.
Yeah.
That's just me.
Any other thoughts?
I would agree.
Okay. Well, I will try to get that set up then, hopefully maybe in April. One last item, May 8th and 9th, the American Wind Energy Association is having the National Wind Energy Conference in Chicago. This is the biggest show in the country. I'm going to be going to that, but I do think I've had an offer from Jay County REMC. If there is another member of the board who would like to go on that trip, let me know. I think we can get that, your convention registration covered. If you would like to go, trust me, it's wind energy. This is the big show of the year. It's also going to be solar. They are doing their national competition for kid as well as kid wind and college wind, where college students as well as elementary and junior high students bring in their projects to be judged based on scientific merit and so on. So it's very interesting. If you'd like to go, again, May 8th and 9th. And
Greg, is this a type of convention where you'll walk around, meet companies, and invite them to expand their windmill projects into Randolph County?
well, I will specifically arrange meetings with the top executives of EDP Renewables and NextEra, which is on the J. Randolph County line,
Okay.
as well as others, and talk to solar companies and so forth. Let me know if anybody can make it or wants to go, and that's all I have for now.
When was that again?
May 8th and 9th.
Any other questions for Greg? Thanks, Greg. We're down to committee reports. Before we get started on those, I'd like to see each one of these committees try to meet in the next 30 days by our next meeting, and designate a chairman for each of one of those committees, because they're the chairman's going to be responsible seeing who's on those boards and running all the information they need to know. So I'd appreciate if you guys, whoever are on those committees, meet and by next meeting have a chairman appointed for each one of those committees. So is there any other questions to come before this board tonight?
Jim, do you want to give a report on behalf of the marketing committee?
Yeah, thank you. Everybody, this is the Randolph County Community Service Questionnaire. The committee at this time is Cian Bales and Nicole and myself. This started out with 15 people three years ago, and we kept whittling down. As we whittled down, we got a lot of the information. And then the last question here that we had that we all approved was about a year and a half ago. And with the board here adding their information, and so what we're trying to do now is just making sure that we got everything covered. I went to both meetings when we had out here for the public and talked to those committees out here that, for surveys and things. They thought this survey was great because the survey was made by the senior class 3 years ago. Was it 2 years ago?
They had taken the
Yeah,
surveys.
they had taken the survey and gave us some information. And Nicole had some of the data, and we kind of looked at it and seen those particular years of the seniors, their thought of, and we also passed it out to 10 people in each town back then too. We got some of them back, some of the elderly filled out. We were just trying to test it out. And I think we hit a pretty good nerve there. And what we're trying to do now is make sure that if we have anything else to add to this survey or take out or whatever, because we would like to, once we have some prices and stuff right now. At that time, we had 3 bidders, and Friendly was the best, because you have to go, well, you know more about this. Can you tell us a little bit about the Friendly?
So what he's talking about is when we get to a point where we like to disseminate this into the entire Randolph County community, we have looked at bulk mail rates. And Friendly Media continues to be the low price for that, and that does include our printing, correct? As well as how much it would cost for us to mail it out. Obviously, postage prices just went up, so we have all of that, and we'll be working with representatives from that company as well to see, because it's something that, that we believe in, we've worked on a long time, and obviously would like your input on what the survey has, and if you want to see other questions before we find different avenues to put this before our citizens.
And like I said, it took a lot of people putting this together, and this really is going to grade everything for marketing. It grades you on all scales, just like we paid all those other investigations and stuff. It just covers a lot. And these done by all kinds of people and ourselves. So at this time, we would like, if you guys have any corrections or anything, we'll bring it back again next month, and to give you more detail on what we're gonna do, and if we can fund it, and go with the project.
Jim, what are we doing with the data that's collected?
We're supposed, the way it was is to get this data by age, because that's the first thing, and then we still like to get put this stuff together in a base that Nicole has connections with.
Yeah, I had worked with Tim Scales at IU East through a couple of his classes, and I will have to reconnect with Tim to see if that's still available, but they have ways where they can disseminate all the data, and we wouldn't have to pay a large firm to go in and go through all those surveys. It would be students, both graduate level as well as undergraduate students that could assist with that.
I guess my thought is with the strategic plan that just took place, I'm looking through the survey, and a lot of the things that the strategic plan mentioned and addressed were a lot of the questions that you guys have on here. So, I don't know if there's overlap there, or if this survey's still needed, or.
According to them, they thought this was great. They wish they would have had this, but apparently they didn't, or we wasn't on the committee. But they kept it, because they thought enough of it to say, oh yes, we need to incorporate this and get that data together. And the plan was all this time is to not have it on the shelf. During that evening, that's what they kept, a lot of the negativity that was asked, is what are we going to do with it now? We're going to have it on the shelf, and we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that. We want to grow. We want to, pick at it. And then also, with this survey, it also by itself, according to Anastasia when she was here, that plays a big role for people to, or cities, or when they're going for different grants and stuff. Anastasia said, this is needed. So I'm just going by those things, and by the firm that I talked to that evening, they just said, this is really, because you're grading yourself. Randolph County, listening to the people. Well, like Missy said, that's one of the things we have to do. We got to put people together. This is one way of doing it, by listening through their voice. But we got to use that data, so that we can't just stop at, after a couple months, okay, we did our job. It can't. It has to continue on with other things.
I guess the question I'd have for Nicole, you said that I understand you say you haven't identified a method of dissemination on this yet?
It would be, and what Jim had me speak of would be if we did a direct mailer piece. And that's what we have prices on. Obviously, it could be turned into something digital where there could be an online component to take it as well. And it would probably at a point in time now that would be much easier than it would have even been a year and a half ago.
I think the concept is a good idea. I just question the response you're going to get. We had a focus group here with a survey, and we didn't get a response on it.
Sure.
You know, and I just hope that the response justifies the effort, but I don't think that it will.
How do your state representative direct mails? What kind of response you get on those percentage-wise?
We send out in my district over 26,000 of those pre-session surveys. We get 600 back. That's a combination of both return by mail and online.
Not a very good ROI.
Yeah, an example, Eastern Indiana Regional Planning Commission did an employer housing survey, and after it was out 3 days, they had 480 returned. They were, and they just sent them to employers and asked them to disseminate them to their employees electronically, and they had, I think, 480 returns in 3 days.
That's good.
So, that's a pretty good return in 3 days. No expense, basically.
Any other questions for Jim?
I read the questions, I think they're excellent. I mean, it's information we need to know. I just share the same thing. Spend all this money, we send it out, and we get 300 copies back, and does that really tell us what we want to know?
Absolutely. And you can look at the online, because, I mean, and there is cost. I mean, at this, let me see, if we did,
But any information, you
They
know,
give you
is what, that's
$2,000.
the whole thing is any information is worthy, is what people send back. And you gather that information.
Yeah, and I'm not against, all I'm saying is, I like the idea that you send to employers, you know, to the schools. I mean, let schools disseminate it out to their staff members, certified as well as uncertified staff. I mean, we may have some other mechanisms that might generate a little bit more return, possibly. Because the cost isn't as important as what we get out of it. That, to me, is more important than the cost.
Just a couple thoughts as to Brody, what you were talking about. It took myself a little time to get my head around it. But what we just completed was a comprehensive plan. It's not a strategic plan, and there's a difference. And believe me, it took me a while to get my head into that. And so this information would be more about what you would use in a strategic plan. And so there is overlap, Brody, you're exactly right. And so this information would be helpful as we embark into a deeper countywide strategic plan. So I think you're right. I think your thought is how we would use that. And I think, and I'm really supportive of the survey and the concept, but knowing that we have a techie person coming on board pretty soon, and how to gather that information from the community about how can we disseminate it out electronically, through avenues and save the money of the printing costs. And then is there some ways, I know like we do stuff with SurveyMonkey through the Y, and it then automatically generates your report for you, right? So then you don't even have to have anybody tally it for you. So I think, again, we've started this process like 3 years ago, and before a lot of that stuff was even, that's more prevalent now than it was even 3 years ago. So I think if the commitment, if the board is, yes, we want this type of information, I think there's, some purpose for us to kind of backtrack a little bit, especially with Missy coming on board if she's comfortable with technology, to say how can we disseminate that in a different manner than we thought we were going to 3 years ago, if the board is around doing that type of work. Because this would go into a community development concept and plan and that kind of stuff. That I think it would be helpful information to know. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, I think if you can tag onto the survey why you're asking them to take 5-10 minutes to take this survey, it's going to be very helpful as well. To have that purpose laid out specifically, we're applying for this grant, we need your information, or but just to do it the random way, it's going to be difficult to get that response.
Yeah, and see, and I agree. I mean, on one of these, to do things, there needs to be an end goal, period, or we're just here to feel good about ourselves. And I agree, you start getting this stuff back, it would help us look at a strategic you know what, this needs to be our focus, you know, this is what the community says we lack, this is what they want. Okay, then what do we have to do to get to that, you know, get those levels done? But I'm more concerned about the vehicle, because if we only get 300 back out of 25,000 or something, then honestly, it's not gonna be a good, you're gonna have to look at where that information came from and disseminate it from there. I mean, it's just not. But I like the electronic where you get it, you know, get it out to people we want to get to, which is the workforce, which, you know, is our businesses, and get in schools and start getting that information back. So.
Two things.
Does it make sense to not have identification on this? It's optional for name. I mean, if we want to verify that the people that are coming back to this on this survey are from Randolph County, shouldn't we have name and address on here?
You could use zip code maybe, I mean, if you want some, yeah, if you want some,
Yeah.
because then that would give us an area. I mean, I guess you could do elective name, I mean.
I think you could put it on there as an option,
I'll put
but
my
if
name,
you
your
require
name
it,
on.
you're gonna cut your response drastically.
But yeah, if we ask for a zip code, it would tailor, then you know where the response is coming back from, and maybe where we
Then you don't even have to have a name.
Yeah, because on the first thing, it says name optional.
Optional, right.
And that's what we discussed back
Right.
then, because a lot of people wouldn't want to, and they'll be honest with their things, so they don't want to be
Yeah.
tagged as being honest, so they don't want to put their name and where they're from. And
Students will put their name though.
oh
I'll
yeah,
give them that.
the senior
They were
class,
proud.
they did. They put her on there. They wasn't afraid to answer these questions.
I think we just need a direction, if that's what you guys want us to do or not.
So at least this is a start. I mean, now we have better things, and we've learned, and we've already been in different meetings, and we're on the right track. We just got how to put it on the track. How to put it. So anyway, that's just our report.
Well, and for Brody, or for a response to your question, as a member of the infrastructure committee, we've been looking for feedback from multiple sources so we could get a direction in where to go. And we've not been having meetings because we go to our meetings, we sit down and, okay, what new information do we have? And we have none. So for the infrastructure committee, this feedback would be very beneficial and give us some directions in which way to go.
Well, could each committee, like if you're supposed to meet, we're all supposed to be challenged to meet in the next month, could this be one of the things that each committee looks at and said, our committee would like to know this, this, and this, and how maybe that could be in it, and even tailor it so that there's a purpose behind this, and we're giving you information that you might need. I don't want to totally flip the concept of the survey, but if we're trying to figure out how to garner input from the community, it might be worth in that, I don't know.
For example, Jim, and I'm not being critical of the survey, but I don't think there's a single question on here about technology.
And back then we didn't.
Yeah, and I'm just saying.
That's what I'm saying, that this might be a jumping off point, and I mean, it can be a fluid document, and each committee can kind of see, and if we are gonna really push electronically, if you know, like Clyde said, if you want, what's our end goal, what's the end thing in mind, if each committee needs some information to give you direction for where that committee's work's gonna be in the next year, or 2 years, or 3 years, you know, we could put some stuff for the marketing committee, put some stuff for the quality of life people, put some stuff for the infrastructure people, and without making it too tedious. You don't want a survey that somebody's gonna take 5 hours to take online.
Well, the other thing is, and Clyde, here comes the boss. You stated we need to get it out to the schools, to the employers, to the workforce, and stress the electronic distribution, which is a direct contradiction to what Missy just said a little while ago about all of our older residents and older people feeling left out, which is exactly what would happen if that took place. I think the approach needs to be both. We need to do electronic dissemination, which will get the younger people, but I think we also need to have a portion of it be direct mail so that we do include the older people who don't have social media and smartphones and everything. I think it needs to be a blend of both approaches.
And that's how we started. We gave 10 of these surveys to every town. The 5 towns had this to give to their leadership or clubs, older people. Then we took it upon ourselves to do the senior class at that particular time to get feedback. And then we did, you guys here, well, half of you guys here, and did our own survey to ourselves. And that's how we learned to change some questions around from the original. So we did do that, and we thought of that because, you know, not everybody has these phones or computers and stuff. And it's just exactly what Missy said. Some of the people back then are a lot more wiser, and they can guide the people with technology a little bit better. And they have the technology to go further than that.
Well,
So-
and on some of these questions, like the medical facilities, you're gonna get drastically different answers from a bunch of 18 to 25-year-olds than you're gonna get from 50 to 60-year-olds.
We were shocked from, CN noticed that from her side, about how honest these kids were on those particular answers.
Yeah, we talked about that. It's been some time when we brought up some of those results, and I think we were all shocked. They were a lot more thought-provoking than what we really thought they would be. They were very honest and they were very in tune.
And they
with what
put
was
their
going
names on it.
Yeah, more so than some of the adults ones that we got back.
So anyway, this is our
Okay.
report.
Let's move on, and Cheryl, did you guys have anything for? Okay. Now, under leadership, Michelle sent out the bylaws for everybody to review. I'd like to see if we can, if there's any changes, please get to the leadership committee, and maybe next month, if we can get all the changes in place, I'd like to see if we can adopt those bylaws. So that's another homework assignment.
We'll blank out enough time for that.
Yeah.
On the agenda.
Anything else to come before this board?
Is the meeting still gonna be April 17th since the trip to Kentucky's the 17th and 18th?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I should have, we would leave here at noon, which would get us there about 5 p.m. Get checked into the Tartar Lodge, enjoy some time with their executives, and then the next morning tour until we'll have lunch there. Fresh fried fish and hush puppies that they do in the factory it's delicious. So, and we would be back here by probably 6 or 7 in the next day, the next evening.
I don't understand, that's on Tuesday, right?
Tuesday and Wednesday. yeah.
And the meeting's on Tuesday?
I'm sorry?
And the next board meeting's on Tuesday?
Not, did I schedule that on the board
I think
meeting?
so.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what you were saying.
I think that was
Gee,
your
Well,
question.
I was just letting you be a politician and work your way all the way around it.
Well, we have to make a little change in the board meeting.
Yeah, that's.
To be announced.
We booked the lodge already. Do what? Well, would that work? Instead of Tuesday next month, have our meeting on Wednesday?
Well, I don't plan to go, so that would work for me, but if I'm driving back from Kentucky on Wednesday, I probably wouldn't show up on Wednesday.
Oh, now, don't be a baby about it. Suck it up.
I am, because I'm not
was
going.
thinking we would come somewhere.
You guys are going, well, you
Man, I apologize, I missed
I got my answer right there.
As far as the board meeting? Thursday, the 19th is a board meeting, and I realize we're probably getting into other boards now.
Sorry.
My apologies, I missed that.
Trying to figure out how many gallons I got.
Just pick a day, just pick a day, go with it. You're gonna, someone's not gonna be able to come.
24,
A few.
Tuesday the
As it
24th.
was, but
The fourth Tuesday instead of the third. Ah, okay.
Serious? President can't make it. Oh, my God.
Okay.
Every Tuesday.
What about on Thursday?
Thursday's fine.
The 19th? Okay. Then, I'm sorry, the 19th.
Thursday 19th. Michelle, send us something out, because no one's gonna have it right.
Okay. Geez, my apologies, guys.
If that's the worst thing you do, we got
Yeah. Okay.
Anything else?
Yeah, I said, hey.
I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh my gosh, I just saw it.
It's gonna be late.
I can't wait. Oh my God, Brax and I were just talking about it this morning. And